Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are on this fast forward planet, spinning around the sun, still wrapped in a pandemic, which is still out of control in the United States, a few other countries. It's been very well managed in other countries. Vaccines are on the way, but there's so much work to be done between now and the rollout of those vaccines that I hope that everyone's understanding this is not a moment to relax. It's a moment to dig in and have one more burst of energy, trying to constrain the passage of this virus from one of us to the other. As one of my friends says, stop swapping air. It's that simple. You don't have to worry about mandates and the like. Just think common sense and don't share your air. I'm Andy Revkin. This is the Sunday morning version of our Sustain What enterprise, which has been going since March 15th. This is like the 130th show. Sundays, we try to avoid what I just did, which is words, talking, and to focus on the arts and hearts, music. And I'm starting right now with one of the greatest hits, I guess you call it, from back a few months ago when Dean Friedman was on here. And my good friend from Peekskill, New York, best known for his radio hits from the 1970s, but he's still cranking out beautiful tunes. And here is one that really struck a chord. I can make it work. Maybe I can't do that. Oh, come on. I had it all set up. So really looking forward to that. Let's try this again. I'm hoping you can hear that. If the folks in the green room can't hear that, let me know.
Go to the movies.
Good.
Meet up with a bunch of my friends. Buy a box of Skittles. Find some good seats in the middle and watch till the credits roll to the end. And maybe stop at the diner. A burger with some fries and a Coke. Some pie for dessert, couldn't hurt. The service so slow it's a joke. Drop some change in the jukebox. The Beach Boys, California girls. I wish I could get back to a halfway normal world. Take me out to the ball game. Doesn't seem like too much to ask. A diamond oasis, players are running the bases. The catcher is wearing a mask. We'll all root for the home team. We'll fill up on peanuts and beer. We'll yell at the umpire and tell him to retire and think of folks that couldn't be here. On the mound, the pitcher, a southpaw. His curveball will be hurled. I wish I could get back to a halfway normal world. I wish we could get back to a halfway normal world. I'm gonna throw a big party. Invite everybody I know. We'll kibitz and mingle. I'll serve pretzels and Pringles. We'll sit side by side and toe to toe. We'll lose ourselves in deep conversation. We'll play lots of silly games. We'll laugh and we'll smile, and then after a while, we'll barely remember our names. And we'll all wind up in the kitchen at the counter with the tablecloth unfurled. I wish I could get back to a halfway normal world. I wish we could get back to a halfway normal world.
I just love that. That was a great moment among many great moments on this show. And just want to introduce you to some of this morning's guests, which includes some sheep out in Heath, Massachusetts, via Karen Brooks, who's just setting up a camera there. Nidhi Thakur is a professor at Kean University in New Jersey, and a fine poet. Good morning to you.
Thank you.
And Claudia Gibson is here from down in Wimberley, Texas. One of our You've been here since the early days of this.
March, yeah.
Yeah,
Never came out of this room. I've just been in this room that whole time. Yeah, it's
amazing.
lost a lot of weight. I'm joking.
Amazing.
No, I'm joking. I go lots of places.
So what a time it is. So we still, we've got this surge here now. My son, who lives in Los Angeles, is facing deep lockdown, and they're not even allowed to go to a park, which is to me absurd. I've been tweeting angrily about overload. There's some places in this country that have gone way too far in how they're handling this, and it's actually intensified the polarization around the virus. I'm sure that's true in Texas.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm thankful every day that I can go, walk my dog in the local park and walk around my neighborhood, and there's outdoor this and that.
Yeah,
but
and
go the other way.
Karen Brooks in Heath, Massachusetts, with her lambs and grown-up sheep, who she said are all the same size now for the winter. The lambs have all grown up. Karen, if you can unmute at some point, it'd be fun to check in to see what the blue markers mean and all that stuff. And Nidhi, how are you? You were on the show a month or two ago, and how's life been for you in New Jersey?
It has been great. And when you mentioned the polarization, I really do feel that the lockdown has to be talked about. It has to be so sensibly tread upon. It cannot be one size fits all in that way. And so you're very right that, there is fatigue. There is a palpable fatigue around this. Right. And therefore it needs to be heavily left. You have to invoke the individual sense of rationality, the sense of common good. All of those have to be invoked in a way which doesn't polarize people, certainly. And today, one of my poems will be on that. So, yeah, but otherwise, I've been great. I've been doing a lot of remote teaching. And so I would have to say that the medical community, the frontline workers are the heroes of this war, but so are the teachers. Absolutely. Yep,
I couldn't agree more. Maybe we'll start. Claudia, do you have a song in mind this morning to kick things off musically?
I do. I had prepared two songs. I was looking. I have a couple shows this month, one this afternoon, and I was looking for, do I have holiday songs? And I realized I'd written this Christmas song over the past year. I'm half Catholic, half Jewish, so it's kind of kind of a strange mixture. But I have one of those, but I'm not going to play that first. But I'm going to play a song about something that I'd love to be able to do right now, which is take a road trip, which right now is sort of dicey, No,
I know.
My youngest lives in Knoxville. He's in a grad program, and he usually drives home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, but he's not. And my oldest is in New York, and so at any rate, this song is called Unbound. Love can't live on the and we just held each other down. Passing kids a smile and waves, license plates, reminders of the state I'm in. At a truck stop in Ohio, a stray dog's running down the road. Unbound, he's looking for a friend. Unbound, love can't live on the dark side of town. The lights smashed out and the shades pulled down. Unbound, and maybe now your own truth will be found. 'Cause baby, we just held each other down. Coffee in a paper cup, swirl around and drink it up. Tonight we'll see my journey's end. I pull off from the interstate, a different kind of road awaits. Unbound, I'm starting out again. Yeah, I'm unbound, I'm ready to begin.
Oh, I was muted. That was very nice.
Thanks. I'm reminded of something I heard Slate
That was great,
Cleaves
Claudia.
say once, that when you're doing a lot of writing of new songs and you don't keep up with the old ones, they sort of get you when you go to perform them, because then the words are like, oh yeah. So
Oh, I know that.
the line was billboards and license plates, and it was like kind of like in my brain it was just. But
It's
it's
all part
early
of the
here.
fun.
It's early here in Texas. But
Yeah, that's right. It's all part of the fun here on the Sunday
It's-
Sanity Show.
it's all
Beautiful.
Karen, I think you're unmuted now. So, what do the blue marks mean on the sheet? Or maybe you're muted again. I assume you're
Oh.
separating those.
I
Yeah, there you
just
are.
unmuted my. So those are from the marking harness. Yeah.
Oh, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
The blue from the crayon that was on him, and if I go in there, I think I'll lose you. But let's see if I can show you the red with the harness.
Sure.
And then I think I'll sign off because my fingers are so cold.
Yeah.
See if I
Okay.
can find him. He's very mellow. This little guy. He's wearing a harness.
Oh, my
which is
God.
Under his breastplate there, but it's really hard to see. It's got a crayon on it. And so he's marked all the girls, but now all the other Rams are in here, and who knows what's what at this point. But anyway, it's cold, as you can see.
Yeah. You're
cold.
way out
It's
there.
not really a nice day to stay outside.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's windy.
Well,
It's
thanks.
probably about 0.
Yeah, it's great. It's cold here in the Hudson Valley, and you're another 100 miles north. So, it's great to have that
and the
little
wind is
glimpse
blowing.
of. Yeah, it's great to have that little glimpse of non-human activity. So you can unfreeze your fingers.
I'm going to mute, but I want to show you Mount Greylock if I can.
Yeah,
Mute,
sure.
And then maybe.
Okay, so Mount Greylock is coming up. This is Karen Brooks in Heath, Massachusetts. And it's super cold there, and there's the edges of this nor'easter driving a lot of wind as well. Boy, that's amazing.
Beautiful.
This isn't quite like it's not exactly like being there, but and we're all warm. So what a beautiful picture. I'm gonna zoom in here.
I unmuted. I don't know what.
Yep.
I unmuted, but Greylock is in gray today, which is why it's called Greylock. but it's literally in one of those masses of clouds there.
Fantastic.
I'll mute again because I think it's probably distorted.
No, it's pretty good. All right. Well, this was awesome, Karen. So there's a little bit of a vista there for those of us who are locked inside.
Sign off. Yeah.
Okay, but come back on. If you can come back on musically later, that'd be great.
Sign off because it's bitter cold.
Okay, cool. We love ya.
Okay, I'll try. Thanks.
Well, that was cool, literally. And here's Mary Newell also is joining us, another poet from here in the Hudson Valley. Good morning to you.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on. So you got a little glimpse of rural Massachusetts there. And Karen will probably come back on when she's unfrozen her fingers, hopefully to sing a song too. So Nidhi, you came on last time and did a wonderful reading. And I don't know what you have in mind this morning, but it'd be great to hear from you again on the creative side.
All right. So I essentially write in a language called Hindustani, which is a blend of Hindi and Urdu. And then, of course, I can always translate it in English. So as the lockdown started, a flurry of emotions kept passing through. And I was able to, extend my craft into not just spoken poetry, which I would do on a YouTube and put it out there, but I was able to kind of make mini movies out of them. So, and I created an entire, what is called a treasure trove of pandemic poems, with audio visuals and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed the process. And the first one of those is very dear to my heart because, again, it comes back to the point, Andy, that you and I were raising about, taking this lockdown sensibly. Without making it seem like it's that iron gate, which and so I'm borrowing because this is a song and story swap hour. This poem relies on, it is motivated by an Indian mythology called the Ramayana, where legend has it that Rama with his younger brother and Rama's wife Sita were in exile in a jungle. And Rama went away for hunting. And when he didn't return for a long time, his brother was setting out to look for him. But he knew that it's a jungle full of all sorts of uncertainties. So he drew a line around the house and he told his sister-in-law, Sita, that please do not step out of this line. Stay within the boundary of this line and you will be safe. And the moment he was gone, Sita spies a golden deer in the periphery. And she's charmed by the golden deer and she steps, and as it was, the golden deer was actually a disguised 10-headed monster who then abducts her, and the entire story thereafter develops on that abduction. So I borrow from that concept of the line, which is called the Lakshman Rekha. Lakshman was the name of the younger brother, and Rekha means a line. So I borrow from that. And then I created this poem, which was about, let's acknowledge that there is an angst when we are asked to be in a lockdown from being completely social human beings, where we were hugging, touching, kissing, shaking hands, and, we were in our subways, shoulder to shoulder. We are suddenly asked to be completely isolated and in a lockdown. So let's acknowledge that it is an angst and thereafter take what we mean from it. So here goes. I'm going to read it out in Hindi because I hope, in the Hindustani language, because I hope the word kind of sounds, sometimes different languages sound beautiful. So I hope that still is the case.
Yeah, of course.
Dil dhoondta hai phir wahi दुनियादारी और मसरूफियत के दो पल. The heart aches for those moments of the social affairs, the social bazaars of busyness. हौसलों के मातम का सन्नाटा खरता है, चाहिए महफिलों की हलचल. The sepulchral silence that surrounds me reminds me of the death of hope. I seek the guffaws, the brouhaha, the frou-frou of a party, of a ball, of a cafe. मैं खालिस इंसान हूं, बस्ती में मस्ती ही मेरी फितरत है. मैं पत्थरों को बेशक पूज सकती हूं, पर मेरी जरूरत बस इंसानों की सोहबत है. These are my really beloved lines, because in especially in Hinduism, we are a multi-pantheon religion. So, we have innumerable statues that we bow before, right? So this borrows from that. It says, "Main khalis insan hoon. I am a thoroughbred Homo sapien. Fun with my folks is my tendency. I can alone worship stones, but my need is simply company." Right? So, I mean, you can ask me to pray in front of a God all by myself, but my tendency is towards company. तन्हा अपने महल में हाथ धोती हुई एक तिनके को देख के भी डर सा जाना, इससे तो कहीं बेहतर था सट के खड़ा होना कतारों में पसीने की बदबू से मर सा जाना. Another thing I feel about COVID, which is interesting and somewhat beautiful, is the fact that it is a huge equalizer, in the sense that be it a Hollywood star, or be it a humble student from Kean University, everyone had to be in a lockdown. It wasn't like, if I have the money, I can call guests and still have a party in my house. No, 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 you just cannot. You cannot touch, you cannot see, right? So that equalizing was so beautiful. Alone in my palace, washing my hands for the umpteenth time now, and getting scared even on spying a speck of dirt, is so much worse than the times I was standing for hours in long queues of human beings, even when the stench of sweat was almost unbearable. So I remember that and I savor that now, right? शोरगुल बारातों की धुन कब आएगा अब इनका शगुन. In Indian marriages, there is a huge procession which goes on with a band, and there's dancing and goes on for hours. So I ask, and Indian marriages again are draw a lot on horoscope and the alignment of stars. So I ask, who will draw a tarot card for the day when we will all again hear those noises of many people doing many things together and the sound of the shehnai at the weddings? क्योंकि भीड़ भाड़ के कारोबार ही तो हमें अपना बनाते हैं, because it is our innumerable big and small actions in public spaces with people around them that gives us our identities. Because in our houses, we are all simple, humble human beings, right? I'm not a king in my house. I'm not a professor in my house. It is when I go out in a public space, I'm meeting with 100 students, they call me professor, I become a professor. So that sense of identity that we gain from a public space, that's gone, and I miss it. It is upon shaking hands with the strangers that we become friends. मेरी दुनिया मेरे लोगों से बनी है, लोगों से मिलकर प्यार तकरार, चाय पे चर्चा, कॉफी पे फटकार. My normal world is made by my people, a world where I meet them to shower affection or start arguments. I meet them over tea or chai to discuss, or over coffee to debate. याद आता है अब घर से बाहर निकलते हुए. And this is an ode to the vanity, the concept of vanity, which doesn't exist in isolation. Vanity is about someone else appreciating you, right? So here it goes. याद आता है अब घर से बाहर निकलते हुए आईने में खुद का मुआयना करना क्यों? I recall now, I used to take a fleeting glance at myself in the mirror just before stepping out of the house. Why? Why, you ask? Because when have I prided myself upon looking at the mirror alone in my room? It is that look in your eye when you see me that makes me appreciate myself. Who are you? And this draws upon, think about a busy street in India, because I am referring to an auto rickshaw or rickshaw in India. You are the unfamiliar lady walking on the street. So it is that glance of the stranger sometimes, right? That tells you, maybe I'm looking pretty. You are the unfamiliar lady walking on the street, or the bhaiya, the big brother, as we call them, who drives the three-wheeler. You are a girlfriend or a male colleague at work, a brother-in-law or a brother's wife. You are just someone who is someone outside the boundary of my house, because I yearn to step out of the house, right? And so I'm going to now cut short to the mythology that I was talking about. How much distance is enough? Who will tell? Who would you know my condition without This one again is something that I really think is so poignant about the concept of touch that was banned upon us because of this COVID, right? So here it goes. कितनी दूरी जरूरी है ये कौन बताएगा नफ्स बिना पकड़े क्या वो मेरा हाल जान पाएगा especially in the homeopathic and Unani medicine, the medicinal system of the Asian traditions. There is a lot of where the doctor supposedly, the doctor just sees you and then touches your pulse and can completely read the chemistry of your body and pronounce what is wrong, what is right. So that concept of touch, the feeling of the pulse. So here I ask, how much distance is enough? Who will tell? Would you know my condition without feeling for my pulse? Because if you can't touch me, how will you know how I am? अब ये जो मेरे चारों ओर एक लक्ष्मण रेखा है, उसके उस पार एक सोने का हिरन देखा है. पर हिरन क्या था, क्यों था, ये भी मुझे मालूम है. इसलिए मन मारकर दहलीज के अंदर ही रहूंगी. दूरी अब भी है जरूरी, yahi kahungi. And so this is the last stanza. Now that there is a Lakshman Rekha around me, this boundary of lockdown, I see a golden deer on the other side, beckoning me. But why was the golden deer? Who was the golden deer? I know. And therefore, I will still reiterate, social distancing is required. Social distancing has to be maintained. The end.
That's really beautiful. And I love the way you were interlacing the two languages and the two cultures. It's very, very powerful. I'd love to maybe the next time we could show one of the videos that you've been producing. That sounds really interesting too. I can't wait to see them. Any thoughts or reactions? Mary, you're a poet. You're a wordsmith from a different culture, a different tradition. What comes to mind this morning for you?
I love hearing the original language, the two languages. I'm familiar with that story, but I think what you did with it is it's really beautiful to bring the traditional stories into our moment, where they still have resonance. I mean, you made it really work at the end, and what it means to be in these conditions, and what we can understand. But I think the original language gives the kind of lilt that carries the story in a way. So it's beautiful to hear it.
I'm muted. Could you talk a little bit about where your own work comes from and how you've kind of adopted or adjusted to this new moment?
Is it for me or Mary?
Oh, Mary.
Sorry, I didn't know you were calling on me. Well, I actually have a poem that I wanted to read. I have two different versions. One, it's about hummingbirds, but the other is about hummingbirds and people in the COVID situation. So that might address your question. But first, I just want to brag about the book that I co-edited, which I'll put in the chat if I can figure how to do it. It's an anthology of eco poetry, and it's quite extensive. It's over 500 pages. We tried to be as broad as we could in getting
poetics for the more than human world. I love that.
Right. So it's available now on Amazon and from the publisher, and I hope some of you will have a chance to look at it. So hummingbirds with and without people. Maybe I'll read the with version, which is, I don't have printed out here, but I have it. Can I share screen or?
I'm not sure if we lost your audio there for a second.
Okay, can you hear me
Mary,
now?
I'm not hearing you.
All right, let's see what I can do about that.
Mary, we lost your audio.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened. You might have to come out and back in again.
Okay, I can do that.
And I see a couple of other guests are arriving here too. Mary, could you do me a favor and pop out and
Sure.
like re-enter and see if that makes a difference?
Okay,
We'll get to that poem in a second.
no problem. If I can
And
find
Claudia,
out.
while she's doing that, I think you said you had another song in mind this morning. Maybe you could offer that up.
I do. I do. Let me turn up my monitor. Yeah, and
I can't hear you either. Something weird happened
in.
here. Hold on.
I think it's
What's
you.
going on? Can you guys hear me?
I
Yes or
heard
no?
Mary fine.
Suddenly, I
Yes.
can't hear your audio.
Yes.
This is a strange. This has not happened before. Let me bring in someone else and see if it's the same for them.
Hi. Hello, everybody.
What is going on with StreamYard all of a sudden? Hold on. Maybe hold on, everybody. I'm gonna play a tune here just while we figure out a couple things. This is kind of a new phenomenon on StreamYard. I haven't had this happen before.
The silence.
It's like it's. Oh, now it's all completely frozen.
We can hear you. I don't think you can hear us. Yeah.
Sure.
It's my
We
computer.
could take over the show.
Great idea. The
We could do all sorts of things.
A mutiny on the way.
Yeah, the inmates running the asylum.
Hi.
Hi, Andrei. Hi, Pete.
It's
Hi down there, guys. How are you?
yeah, it's a poor Andy, he must be
Well,
exhausted.
folks, hold on. If you're hearing
All
me,
these serious people
We hear you.
Yes.
we can hear you.
We can
I
hear
think
you.
Andy's
Yeah.
frozen. I think he's frozen on his computer link.
That's right. Andrei, so where are you joining from?
just hold.
Brooklyn, New York.
California?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Okay. All
New
right.
York. Yes.
New York. And I am in New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello.
And I'm
Yeah.
in Texas. I'm in Texas, so it has to be a longer hello. It's like, hello.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Thank you
So-
for the music.
Looks like Andy's given up.
Oh, no,
I
Andy's
don't-
going to come back in. I think
And
Andy
Pete, how about
has-
you? Where are you joining from, Pete?
I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of DC.
Okay. All right.
I loved your poem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we hope that Andy comes back in.
Yeah, otherwise we're on a roll.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I'm hosting a show this afternoon on StreamYard, and StreamYard can be it's usually great, very dependable, but it's always dependent on like if you're having a blip in your own audio processing. If your modem has gone down or something goes weird, that can happen. So anyway, I mean, I could play a song, but I don't want to.
I think we should fill the air here.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
got-
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure a
That's
massive
very
audience
good
out there
point.
that
Yes.
needs to hear something.
Well, I will go.
Absolutely.
I will
Yeah.
play the song that I was going to play.
That would be fantastic.
It's a new song, so I'm going to be looking at the lyrics, which are up here on my computer screen. And I just have to make them a little bit smaller. So I came from what was called a mixed background, in that my dad was Catholic.
Are you all here? You're still here? You hung in there?
Yep, we're
Holy
hung in
mackerel.
there. Yeah, I was about to start a song, Andy.
And I'm
Can
still
you
not
hear?
hearing you. Oh, this is really weird. Are you hearing me?
We're
Yes,
hearing you just
we
fine.
hear you.
Why am I? I'll have to get in touch with my StreamYard friends. I'm not quite sure. I see people online are saying they can hear me. Now, can they hear you? That's a question.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, they can.
Let's try. Let me just make sure, Claudia, let me make sure your settings are okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
And we'll see if we can get this going again.
All right.
So, Claudia, start singing. I can't hear you, but maybe
Okay.
this will be a test. I'm going to watch the comments to see if people can hear you. Other than me. So, Claudia is singing. Karen, it sounds like you say you can hear her. Okay, Claudia.
every other woman on that road from Bethlehem, bone tired and dusty from the journey, heavy with her child. Mary longed to raise her head, but she labored and brought forth a baby. When they asked her, "Whose child is this?" she said, "It comes from heaven up above." When they asked her, "What will you name him?" she said, "I call him love, I call him love." Conscripted by the angels, she stayed mild and serene, but still dazzled and puzzled by the message. Behold the Father's child, he will save us from our sins. Was this baby to be his highest blessing? When they asked her, "Whose child is this?" she answered, "It belongs to all of us." When they asked her, "What will you name him?" she said, "I call him love, I call him love." When they asked, "Whose child is this?" she said, "It comes from heaven above." When they asked her, "What will you name him?" she said, "Call him love, call him love, call him
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Sorry about my glitch earlier. I guess it was just my headphones. I thought it was
Just
a
your
major,
headphones. Nope.
major breakdown, but there you go. Life in our imperfect universe.
It's okay. We took over and said all kinds of things.
Yeah, good. There's
I'm
still,
joking. It
there's
was
still
fun.
people watching. No, this is good. Let me get Mary back in here. There's Mary Newell, and I see Peter Rafel has joined us as well. Hello, Peter.
Morning. So glad to be here.
And Andrei Codrescu, poet
everybody.
laureate of the online universe. How are you doing?
Good. I've been revisiting or visiting with dead friends or their books. And, seeing the poems in the new light with Anselm Hollow and all kinds of wonderful people who have gone not long ago.
Yeah.
Anselm Hollow's last book, which is wonderful, is called The Tortoise of History.
Tortoise, like
Tortoise, like the animal.
Yeah.
Turtle.
Well, I kind of blew things earlier, and I interrupted Mary Newell, who was about to read about hummingbirds and people. And Mary, sorry about that earlier. I'd love to hear from you now if you have that poem in front of you.
Okay, welcome again.
Sorry.
So I actually have a trio of hummingbird poems. I think I could read two, maybe.
Yeah.
One of them does have another language in it, so maybe, Nidhi, you can appreciate that too. This one is called Parallel Maneuvers. Can you hear me okay?
Beautifully.
Okay. Hummingbird tangles with salvias. Generations of entwine fold into this smooth bonding. Meanwhile, among bipeds, closeness courts disaster, number crunchers gasp, the birds unruffled, food staples stacked in sequester, bodies loaded on a cold truck, the silence of corpses. Hummer locomotes by quiver, broadcasts by wing whir, ripple of flight wake, figure eight spin-outs, flash iridescent green, sheer delight, a nourishment. Frequent sweets sustain fast pulsing heart, whiz zip, hover to sip, with forked tongue drawing in nectar from deep-throated blooms. Human to human and more, resilience in difficult stints, plunge into rustic skills, seek towards supple adaptation. Salvia's trapdoor stamens rub pollen on transfixed head of sipper who soon flits with gold corona to blend pollen from mauve and blue, forging new ultraviolet salvia tone. Some days tumble to profound solitude. Fissures from nutritive depths bubble up, lucent. So that's one. I was really impressed that hummingbirds actually can claim to have made this color of salvias, the ultraviolet, through their pollination enjoyment, because when you watch them, they're so busy enjoying each one that they don't stay very long and they flit around from one to the other. But in the process, they're actually performing this biological service of creating a new color.
That's amazing.
Pardon?
No, it's an amazing concept.
Isn't it? So time for one more?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is called Flying Jewels Fading. Flying Jewels is the name in Spanish of hummingbirds. During pandemic pandemonium, names of old friends echo, call to verify they remain among the visible, some still on the map, but fading out of likeliness. Meanwhile, hummers and salvias, that coevolutionary duo, together again and again throughout the Americas, yet threatened with shrinking habitat. Delectable details recorded of various joyas voladoras, flying jewels. Last seen last century, Godin's turquoise-throated puff leg, quote, mostly green with blue undertail coverts and white powder puffs of downy feathers on the legs, and the male has a bluish-purple throat patch. Recently named, already endangered, blue-throated hill stars of Andean cloud forests, Colibri del Chimborazo. Their names. If you left behind no name tag or little else, who will remember your nickname? Was it jazz-crazed, lead from behind, walked life lightly, knew a thing or two, dressed to bamboozle, helpful when you called her, never home? Among hummers, the names of the endangered ones roll over in your mouth. Colagenia orinia, dusky starfrontlet, Colibre de vientre de zafiro, sapphire-bellied hummingbird. Carazadito admirable, colorful puff leg. These still on the map. So that's
Beautiful. I was quickly surfing for some of the that one you mentioned, Godin's, the one that hasn't been seen in a long time.
yeah, it's so interesting the interest that enthusiasts will take with all these different little details and when was the last sighting and so on and so forth.
It's amazing what's going. Yeah, I wrote a lot about amphibians that are in decline because of this chytrid disease that has swept the tropics, fungus, and it was a very strange phenomenon to have these scientists studying a species, a whole not just a species, but a whole genera of animals that were going extinct. This one biologist, Mendelssohn, down at the Atlanta Zoo. He said it's like I came into biology to study living things, but I feel like I'm becoming a paleontologist because everything I'm studying is already extinct. Like in his lifetime as a scholar, it was just an extraordinary loss that we're experiencing on this planet.
Tragic.
But the poem is not a loss; it's a gain. That was beautiful.
Mm.
So Peter and Andrei, again, thanks for being here this morning. Andrei, what was on your poetic mind?
Well, as I said, one of the invisibles that Mary referred to that's very visible to me is my good friend Anselm Hallow, and I was reading his last book, so I thought I would just read a poem from it because he was one of the liveliest people I knew. Born in Finland, a great American poet, translator of from Finnish and German and Russian. Truly an amazing person. So yeah, if you
did he pass recently?
No, I was just before in the old world. Yes,
BC.
Not long before then, but you know, he's just enormously erudite and funny, you know, and he could drinking with Anselm was truly a feast of civilization and forgetting that. So, if you don't mind, I'll read a poem here he wrote for
sure,
for a friend. He had, like many of the people in our worlds, we dedicated poems to our friends and tried to write them for weddings, and certainly, you know, elegies and elegies when we had to. This is called Two Strange Little Vessels. He's looking at two things. He says, one, a tiny wooden chest from the once upon a time small town of Hamelin, whence the Pied Piper of Hamelin was said to have lured all the town's rodents away by playing a magical tune on his pipes. But sadly, the town's children heard it too and followed the piper. Where? Nobody knows for sure. The other, a small bowl with what looks like an Etruscan design of two birds, identical except for their coloration. I'm sure it is not genuinely Etruscan. And a small, non-allergenic metal flower, complete with roots. It is a garlic flower for healing, provenance unknown, and a small book from Crown Point Press of some etchings by the late Mr. John Cage. All of whom were close to us, and Anselm liked looking very much at things and traveling through history and his friends, you know. So
interesting.
He translated from the Russian a wonderful book called Red Cats that City Lights published in the past.
Sounds great. No, he must have been a fascinating character. So he was from Finland, you say, originally?
He was born in Finland. Then he worked for the BBC in London for a while, and then his wife was from Vienna, Austria. Then they came to the Iowa University workshop, where he taught for a year until he was sort of let go for being somewhat of a wild character. And in his last years taught at Naropa Institute in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, sure. Oh, interesting. And some hollow. Ray Pierre Humbert, the British, the climatologist who's over in Oxford, he lived in Finland for a while, and he was playing on here recently some remarkable Finnish accordion tunes. I can't remember if you were on the day he played some tunes from a Finnish movie. It was kind of a thriller called 100 Accordions and a Girl.
Yeah. I heard that, yeah.
And it was the thing they were all hunting for was this recipe for a very special accordion, like some kind of special way to build a new accordion. I want to show this movie someday on here. I got to track it down.
Right.
100. So Finland is an interesting place.
That sounds like the James Bond of.
No, I know. With an accordion being the MacGuffin. So Peter, what's on your musical mind? Peter Rafel is at Georgetown University and focuses on climate communication during the week.
Well, it's so funny. I love these sort of serendipitous intersections of things. first of all, my little studio here in the basement, I call Hummingbird Farm Studios. And hummingbirds have always had a special place in my heart and my wife's. And second, the song that I had been practicing this week is all about that tension between loving the natural world and also loving people. And so I just love the way these things just happen. This one's by Johnny Cash. Can you hear me all right?
That's great.
Great. By a singing mountain stream, where the willow grew, where the silver leaf of maple sparkled in the morning dew. I braided twigs of willow, made a string of buckeye beads, but flesh and blood needs flesh and blood, and you're the one I need. Flesh and blood needs flesh and blood, and you're the one I need. I leaned against the bark of birch and I breathed the honeydew. Saw a southbound flock of geese against a sky of baby blue. And by the lily pads I carved a whistle from a reed. Mother Nature's quite a lady, but you're the one I need. Flesh and blood needs flesh and blood, and you're the one I need. The cardinal sang just for me, and I thanked him for the song. And the sun went slowly down in the west, and I had to move along. These are some of the things on which my mind and spirit feed. But flesh and blood need flesh and blood, and you're the one I need. Mother Nature's quite a lady, but you're the one I need. And so the day was ended, I was still not satisfied, for I knew everything I touched would wither and would die. And love is all that will remain and grow from all these seeds. Flesh and blood needs flesh and blood, and you're the one I need. Flesh and blood needs flesh and blood, and you're the one I need.
Johnny Cash. That's a tune of his I had not heard.
It's
kind of cool.
Most people haven't heard it. I don't know where I saw it on a some sort of compilation, and it just spoke to me right away.
Very cool. And how's things generally?
Well, you know, there's a sunrise on the horizon here, I think, but a ways to go before we get there, and
that's for
a
sure.
lot of exciting things going on to get ready, I think, and hopefully some good news between now and then.
Yeah, and climate is getting into the conversation again.
In a remarkable way, and obviously, the other conditions around the incoming administration are going to make a big difference as to how much we can do, how fast. But heaven knows we have to do all we can as fast as we can.
This is true. I see a couple more guests are here for the next half hour, but hold on a second. I'm just going to bring them in and say good morning. Hey, Donna.
Good
Donna
morning.
Nestlers.
How are you?
You know, as we just said with Peter, all things considered, feeling very fortunate still. We talk about the winter of our discontent. This is going to be a rough winter. The COVID spike is off the charts in many parts of our country and other places around the world, and so there's a lot of, as you just heard, a lot of work to be done. But we're doing okay.
Good.
We fished. We got my 88-year-old mother-in-law from her bubble in Maine in a tiny village that's actually getting COVIDized. We got her down here to our bubble. So she'll hang with us here more safely and with more of a support system. And Irene O'Garden.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Energized by all the possibilities that are forthcoming. I put the Biden beats Trump as my screensaver on my iPad because I want to remind myself every single day that this is actually what we created. So I'm continually reminding myself of all there is to be grateful for right now.
And you're still glad to be human.
I certainly am.
That's the title of Irene's latest collection and a prize-winning essay. So it's good to have you back here.
Thank you. Always glad to be here, Andy.
Yeah.
And nice to see Mary. Hi, Mary.
Right,
I couldn't get here earlier to hear you. I'm sorry to say.
Well, I had a technical glitch, but Mary did read a couple of poems about hummingbirds that were really, really spectacular because they got at that magical mystery of hummingbird color and evanescence. Really, really beautiful. So, Donna, do you have a song to throw in the mix here this morning?
If you want a sort of Christmas song, I've been practicing.
Yeah. Well, like we just started setting up our Christmas tree yesterday.
Have to go now. Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, Andrei, it's great to have you.
Hi, Andrei.
It's good to be here. Good to see everyone.
Take care of yourself.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Jingle bells upon a steel guitar. Through the palms we see the same bright star. Mele Kalikimaka is the thing to say on a bright Hawaiian Christmas day. That's the island greeting that we send to you from the land where palm trees sway. Here we know that Christmas will be green and bright. The sun will shine by day and all the stars at night. Mele Kalikimaka is Hawaii's way to say Merry Christmas to you. We'll get the last chords eventually.
Whoops. That's pretty awesome. I was going to show a clip from some Hawaiian Christmas music from the era of Bing Crosby and stuff. That song's great.
That was so merry. That was so merry and took us to an island even when we're all in a lockdown. So,
yeah.
Next time we'll go to a different island. I'll learn the song.
No, that's beautiful. And I see Carter Brooks is setting up too. He'll be on with us in a second. He's an artist out in Berkeley area whose medium is ice, melting ice. A good friend of mine from actually an old friend of Peter Rafel here's Carter. Hold on. Carter, good morning. I know it's very early out there. Thank you for
good morning. Good morning. I was just getting my coffee. Sorry, I had to step away.
No. You deserve it. Seeing as it's 8:30 in the morning there.
Yeah, well, I got up early too, so I could hear the show. So it's super early morning for me. I'm not usually a 7 in the morning Sunday waker.
You mean you roll out of bed looking like that?
Moments ago, I was still in my bathrobe.
Yeah. So how is your life these days? And are you melting much ice?
I'm not able to melt much ice, though I did finally do a live ice streaming on Thanksgiving. I've had this idea of live streaming ice melting as a thing to do every once in a while, and I finally tried it out on Thanksgiving, and I came out very well. I thought, I don't know if you got a chance to hear it. I can pull it up. But the sounds that came out of it in the end were also fascinating. So about 2.5 hours in, I finally turned the sound on.
Well, you've got some ice right in front of you there. So I'm just showing that right now, which is pretty cool.
And hold on, let me pull up this Chrome tab.
If it has audio, make sure to clip
it. It does have audio, and I am clicking the share audio.
Yeah, good.
And
oh, I see it. So this is a constant live stream on YouTube?
This was a live stream I did on Thanksgiving for, the afternoon. And yeah, I had the sound off for most of it because I was just walking around and doing things. But then as I was getting ready to go to dinner, I turned the sound on, and in a second you'll hear, like, every once in a while it really hits a ping. And then there's just a bit of a still life here. In the background is, the history of my photography
Right.
and other sorts of things too. And then the light plays with it. But yeah, it worked out well this time. I think I'll be doing more of the live streaming because I can't really do the events right now because we're not getting together, right?
Right. I'll never forget, for those who are new to my conversations with Carter, he showed up at a lecture I gave. Was it at Stanford or Berkeley?
At the Energy and Resources Group.
Right. So I gave this talk, and this guy shows up with a cooler and a little tray, and he puts this block of ice, this sort of sculpted ice block, on. I can. There. Yeah. Keep that going. That's kind of fun. That drip. You're hearing the drip of Carter's live stream. And he set that up in the corner of the lecture hall, and so there was this like drip, just like you hear now. There was this dripping ice, and it was like a sand, an hourglass, and it was really cool for me as the lecturer. It was kind of this interesting provocation to hear the melting ice. I'm talking about climate change and sustainability, and even now we're hearing that drip, drip, drip. That's very cool.
I really appreciated that moment as well. It's always because when you show up with ice at a public lecture, you never know what kind of reaction you're going to get. But so a positive reaction is always good. I've always.
It was cool to me. Yeah, I know. I could see where someone might be nonplussed by that, but I thought it was kind of cool, literally cool. It reminds me of the work of another artist here in the Hudson Valley, John Allen, who did this piece. Maybe before we're over, I'll show it. I'm going to stop it now so that we don't, because it makes the point that there are these slow drip things that are, some of them are becoming fast drips that we kind of tune out, and we have to somehow find a way to not tune them out. So art that kind of captures that reality is really important to me. You could set a song to that.
Well, I mean, I've been talking about, I'm friends with the folks at the Climate Music Project too. So hopefully one day we'll have some sort of collaboration.
So somewhere between countdown and lockdown. Let's see. There's a slow countdown behind this lockdown, driving me insane. I don't know. There you go. Peter, probably some song comes to mind for you too.
We'll have to work on that one.
Yeah. So Irene, did you have a reading in mind for today? And maybe we could, yeah, good. I think we'll have to stop the clock for the moment. I might have to try that. We're in a lockdown, on a countdown, driving me insane. I'll go back.
And drawdown.
Oh, drawdown. Yeah.
Drawdown.
I'm taking notes right now. Taking notes. Lockdown, drawdown, countdown. Irene, what's on your lyrical and hopeful mind this morning?
Well, I have a couple things. I am not a scientist, nor do I play one on TV, but I did actually play one in my I'd say my mid-20s. I wanted to take a scientific approach to poetry. So I actually got myself a lab coat, and that would be the way I would write. I would put this on because I wanted to be that careful. Of course, that's not really how my mind works, but it was a nice kind of focus. And so I was looking through what I have, some things from that period and some things from later. And I have a couple poems that I think might go along with our thought. I also have something in Glad to Be Human if you want something like that. But first, I'll read you Ichthy Envy. Have you noticed her bulgy fins? They bend. Disgusting. She heads for the shallows all the time. Guess if I looked like her, I'd want to leave the school myself. She thinks she can wiggle up out of Mother Sea any old time onto that muck we see when we jump. What's she trying to prove? It's deadly there. Gills don't even work. Mine didn't, and hers are no bigger. Sliming all over the sand like that, whatever propels her. No good can come of this, not in 400 million years. So, a little bit of evolutionary theory there. This is just walking around our area. It's called land assessment. How many lives of every kind flip and tunnel and green themselves here? How many feather-snapping spillers of song swoop, dart, and nestle? How many whimmer-finned sleek water bobbers swivel and flash? How many body-long bellies richen soil? How many straight, serene, green, branching lumivores shade and anchor this earth? How many clean, humming lives skim pedaling shoulders? How many pinpoint exhalations pierce the ice to breathe us into spring?
Nice.
Thank you. And I have one more about Einstein, because back in my most scientific days, there was a centennial celebration of Einstein's birth in New York, and I went to workshops and all kinds of things, trying to absorb as much as I could of that amazing person and his ideas. And I came up with this poem, which I called Einstein-tennial. Hours on his back in the grass at the sky did he gaze. It starts in the thinker's eye, watching apples dropping, holding ordered planets in his view. The sky, the stars, the planets gathered to the iris brink, teetered, fell the pupil through, and landing in his mind took up their orbits once again. In the grass, on his back, through the gazing hours, he stretched his open palms. It grows in the thinker's hand, dropping crowns in water, holding lens against a cork. They felt behind the sun and cupped the bulging galaxies. They found limits round as a womb, as an earth. They traced the swagger of an atom. The voice from his delighted inward rolled across the grass at last. It blooms in the thinker's voice, diagnoses dropping out of dreams, holding the unfolding of the race. Matter is energy sleeping. Energy, matter dancing. The wild embrace of light is both. The sound of his violin hangs in the air. The grass, like wax, gives where he lay.
Nice.
Wow.
So, science poems.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I heard something there about ice cracking through the ice. And that brings me back to Carter, who I think has a poem to offer here too, as his sculptural ice continues to drip there.
There was a period in my life where I was a bard and a poet, or trying to be a bard and a poet, and I couldn't figure out how to make that pay. So, two quick poems. I used to live in Bolinas, and I used to live at the house of Magda Craig, who was Huey Lewis's mom. Used to hang out with the Grateful Dead in the day, and she was a real character. And she had a whole song about, with the chorus is "Death rides a logging truck." So I wrote a poem. This is back in the forest activist days, 20 years ago or so. And then I got another quick poem that's more on the long-term time thing. So death rides a logging truck. Death rides a logging truck. It's true. The wet bones of our old-growth elders ride down the divided highway on the backs of trucker insect giants that roll on the death road flatness that the bulldozer once burrowed. And nonviolence? Nonviolence takes a long time. Listen, nonviolence takes a long time. The trees are falling to a physical financial paradigm that has the patience of a quarterly virtual market prices. These redwood grandmothers that are too old to die young are being clipped at the ankles by an adolescent violence that splatters bullets in the schoolyard. Nonviolence takes a long time. Stop. What's that sound? 22 boys are walking around with loaded, semi-automatic, super sight, self-targeting live bullet skull guns. Nonviolence takes a long time. And death today, death rides a logging truck. Mm-hmm. And then this next poem's about Bolinas. And I don't know if you know Bolinas, but Bolinas is just north of San Francisco, and it's got Stinson Beach next to it, which has a big spit that it really should have been a 100-year spit, but years ago they developed on it. Now it's got a seawall and et cetera. So this is this references that as well. Bolinas. 1. The open-faced fishing boats are surfing the slow-motion silt wave of Bolinas Lagoon suffocation at the hands of the permanence of concrete that cured the 100-year spit. We blame the gated community, but we too have plugged the escape valve with concrete. Little Mesa shoulda, woulda, coulda been a 100-year island. We live on a waterfall of wetlands dissolving at the licks of Mother Ocean's joy and fury. 2. The gulls can get away from the hustle of the business center hive infesting this land. They kick it on their own private island by the breakers and await the bath of the sunset. While the tide pools crackle and pop, dry cliffs shed the summer's dead skin. The invasive exotics ski into the sea like penguins. That I can stand here and watch the water lines play out in geologic time is hope enough for the moment.
Hope enough indeed. Nice work, especially at 8:30 in the morning.
Well, I wrote that long ago. I'm gonna have to revive my poetry practice because it's been a while since I've written anything.
Yeah, I have to revive my songwriting practice, and I think I've finally got the stimulus this morning with that crackdown, lockdown, smackdown. I'm going to get to it right away. Donna, circling back to you, I love the stuff you and Rick do from Hawaii, and but you don't have to do another Hawaiian tinged tune. But what else is on your musical mind before we come toward our noontime midday crescendo here?
I was thinking of a sing-along, something that most people would know. Of course, you don't know the verses, but tune in on the chorus.
All you at home, sing along, and all you hear, mute if you sing along.
Uh-oh.
Good.
I'm losing everybody. Yeah, I'm losing myself.
No, we're here.
Uh-oh.
We're here. You're here.
On a summer day, the sun was shining fine. The lady love of old Bill Bailey was hanging close on the line in her backyard and weeping hard. She married a B&O brakeman that took and throwed her down, bellowing like a prune-fed calf with a big gang hanging round. And to that crowd, she cried aloud. Ready? Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? I'm on the whole night long. I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I've done you wrong. Remember that rainy evening I throwed you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb. I know I'm to blame, but it ain't a shame. Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Watch out. Bill drove by that door in an automobile. great big diamond coach and footman. Hear that lady squeal, he's all alone. I heard her moan. She hollered through that door, Bill Bailey, is you sore? Stop a moment, listen to me, won't I see you no more? Bill winked his eye as he passed her by. Sing along. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? I'm on the whole night long. I'll do the cooking, honey. I'll pay the rent. I know I've done you wrong. Remember that rainy evening I throwed you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb? I know I'm to blame, but ain't it a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come? Bill Bailey, won't you please come? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home?
That was
It
great.
made me big screen so I couldn't see everybody's mouths moving.
Oh,
Well, we were. I saw.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah, that's a
Thank
big, grand song, and we need that. We need that these days. So thank you,
You're welcome.
Peter Rafel. Do you have another tune to throw in the mix before we?
I have one more. I don't know, the combination of the Chinese landing something on the moon and the Arecibo Observatory tumbling down for some reason brought this one to mind. I don't know why, but it did. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me play forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song and let me play forevermore. You are all I worship, all I long for and adore. In other words, I love you. In other words, I love you. Probably sound better on Donna's ukulele. But.
No way. I love all those jazz chords.
Yeah, I always learn a new one when I try a song like that.
Yeah, and that whole business of the Arecibo falling down was so strange. It was so iconic, you know, such a beautiful idea. One of the early large individual radio telescopes, and just to see the erosion and physics, the same laws of the universe that it was probing, guaranteed it was going to fall down. Entropy and all that.
Hard to see not to see some sort of bigger metaphor or symbolism in it, but there'll be a bigger, better one of some sort, I'm sure.
Yeah, and actually the idea of an individual instrument now is old. As it comes to radio telescopes now, it's distributed arrays, and
right.
So yeah, we need distributed capacity because things break. So we had a session on here earlier in the week, one of the serious ones during the week, about much of 20th century progress is based on efficiency, getting more out of a factory. Just-in-time delivery of stuff. And that all came apart with the pandemic, because things got all those systems got broken. And now, so redundancy and duplication and inefficiency actually can be beneficial too. So finding that balance.
I mean, isn't nature oddly efficient and inefficient at the same time, right? I mean, you have lots of leaves that drop. Yeah, it all gets recycled over time, but in order for the tree to live, it's got to be inefficient in terms of, its sort of thing. It is funny how we've made everything so tight, that we can run out of toilet paper.
Exactly. We've learned a lesson. And think about all those potatoes that you saw being thrown away because they couldn't get to markets, and all that milk being poured into the ground. Irene, I'm sure you thought about this. And when you do poems or lead kids into the woods and look at all the acorns that oak trees produce, most of those acorns get eaten by something, but some of them get sprouted and become the next part of the forest. So talk about.
Well, one of the things that I like to point out to kids and to writers is that it takes 40 gallons of maple sap to make a pint of maple syrup. So, and I think that's all true of us too, that we have to have lots and lots and lots of experience to then distill it down to the thing that is most precious and sweet.
Yeah, that's true. Boy, oh boy. And that's what a good song or a good poem is.
Yeah, that distillation.
But that means it's okay that I keep writing the same thing in my journal day after day.
Yeah.
As long as it gets shorter.
I'll toss in the song here just because I got my banjo tuned up for a change. And I've played it on here before. Can you hear me okay? I came from old New England's shores. I miss those salty tides. My friends from Rocky Mountains high, they crave their starry skies. Some flock to California towns where sunsets glow like ale. But it's Hudson River banks and hills that make my soul set sail. From Breakneck Ridge to the Bear Mountain Bridge and all that lies between. In autumn's gold and winter snows and spring and summer's green. I've been a billion years of time and toil are etched in these old hills, carved by ice and dynamite, but they stand firm here still. Seen tomahawks and cannon fire and mighty industries, but these Hudson Highlands will endure when we are history. From Breakneck Ridge to the Bear Mountain Bridge and all that lies between. In autumn's gold and winter snows and spring and summer's green. I've been around this whole wide world. I've been up toward the pole. But when I die, please let me lie in Hudson Valley soil. From Breakneck Ridge to the Bear Mountain Bridge and all that lies between. In autumn's gold and winter snows and spring and summer's green. One more time. From Breakneck Ridge to the Bear Mountain Bridge and all that lies between. In autumn's gold and winter snows and spring and summer's green. There you go. It's been a wonderful morning with you all. And
I love that song, especially Autumn Gold and Winter Snow. I love that part of the chorus. I just love it.
Thank you.
It's distilled so that you get the picture beautifully.
It's like that maple
Took
syrup.
at least 40 gallons of experience to make that.
Yeah, that's why I only write one song every 10 years. I'm
But
overdue.
It's good.
Yeah, so next Sunday is going to be special on here. We're in the middle of the annual meeting of the American Geophysical Union. It's like 30,000 Earth and climate and ocean scientists, and a bunch of climate scientists who happen to be musicians and poets are going to be on the show next Sunday too. You're all welcome as well, but that should be a fun one. Probably going to go for 3 hours, so that'll be a bit of an epic show. And lots more coming up this week. On Monday, there's a session on propaganda, and on Wednesday, Amazon rainforest. Back to the forest. So this Wednesday, the Sustain Wet show would be a special one in the morning, 9 a.m. on pandemic genesis comes from forests mostly, and from these disturbed areas where people and nature are not doing so well together. So we're going to do a session on how essentially conserving, helping the guardians of the forest, indigenous peoples, persist is a good strategy for us all to persist. And we don't think of it that way sometimes. So that's kind of where we're headed when we get back into the more serious sessions during the weekdays. But here we are, closing out another beautiful morning together, focusing on arts and hearts. Thanks to you all for being here today. And Donna, I don't know if you have one last little ukulele-ish offering to close us out with. That'd be fun.
Irene, good night.
Irene, good night.
Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Last Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Now me and my wife are parted. Gonna take another stroll downtown. Sing along! Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Stop your rambling. Stop your gambling. Stop staying out late at night. Go home to your wife and your family. Sit there by the fireside bright. Last time. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. More verses another time.
Yeah, that was a great way to close things out. And Irene, have a good day. Have a good night. Thank you for being here. I'm very glad to be human every time we meet up. Great book. And Carter Brooks, keep that ice dripping.
Thank you. Thank you.
And those poems coming. Peter Rafel, good luck with all your weekday work. And thanks for being part of this too. And maybe we'll see you next week. And Donna Nestler, tucked in the Catskills, ukulele in hand. And great to have you here always. This has been the Sunday Arts and Hearts version of our Sustain Wet webcast from Columbia University's Earth Institute initiative on communication and sustainability, which I started a year ago. The idea is to make information matter, but also to make connections matter. We live in a world that's unbelievably hyper-connected and also hyper-divided. So there's a lot of work to be done. So go wherever you are today watching this, please share this with friends and neighbors, virtual or otherwise. As soon as we're done, the link you've been watching on becomes archived. Get in touch with me using that little scrolling bar at the bottom, which has connection, a way to communicate with me. And go out there, stay safe from a distance, connect from a distance, hug those in your bubble, and be empathic to those outside your bubbles. And be well. Take care, everybody.
Oh, thank
Say hi to
you.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Well.